Time flies like an arrow, but fruit flies like a good compost pile. I'm P.D. Fenton, and better late than never, here are the books I completed in the month of March. I've already mentioned Lonesome Dove. It got its own video. In retrospect, I might have been too harsh on it, but at the time I finished it, having just gone through surgery, and it just hit in a way that didn't quite feel as satisfying as it could have been. I know it's a lot of people's favorite books and well regarded as one of the best modern westerns of all, well, the best modern western, period. So it's probably worth reading even if I didn't find it the most fulfilling book. But if you want to know more about my first impressions, take a look at the video linked below. The next book I finished was The Hundred Cupboards by N.D. Wilson. Now, I've actually read this series before. It's a trilogy of books, and it follows a boy named Henry who ends up moving to a house in Kansas that has 100 cupboards in the attic, and each of those cupboards leads to another land. So picture Chronicles of Narnia, except instead of the wardrobe leading to one place, it's more like the wardrobe leading to the woods between the worlds and Magician's Nephew. Spoilers for Chronicles of Narnia, which you should have read already. What caught me off guard the first time I read N.D. Wilson's 100 Cupboards or Dandelion Magic trilogy was same thing I ran into with Andrew Peterson's Wingfeather Saga. It's hard to tell at first what the tone of the book is, what the stakes of the book is. There's a tendency with children's young adult fantasy, which is where this book resides, to kind of be a little cutesy and coy at the first outing. And then when you see real danger, you're not sure, is there really stakes here? Are the kids in danger? Is this twee with fake danger, or are they actually up for deadly stuff? On rereading, I actually found N.D. Wilson's 100 Cupboards to be really good. It does better as a first book than the first Wingfeather Saga book. And I know Wingfeather is blowing up right now. 100 Cupboards it deals a lot more with like a wild magic with fairies and our world and the edges bleeding in. I know the author has said he was looking to make basically fantasy for people that live in America, because a lot of American readers, they find the magical setting to be England, full stop, before you even get to the double-decker buses that can fly through the air or the cupboards that lead to distant lands. The fact that something takes place in England is almost enough of a separation to make it a fantasy before anything magical happens. Wilson's goal with the 100 Cupboards books and others of his, like the Ashtown Burials, is to show American readers that there can be magic lurking around the corner. I'd recommend you read them. I'd recommend you read them to your kids, with your kids, and let your kids read them on their own. I dropped my harmonica, Albert. Speaking of American fantasy, the next book I finished was another children's book and another American fantasy book. It was Ozma of Oz, which is the third book in Frank L. Baum's Oz books. The second book is like just a totally different adventure with some of the same characters, but in this one, Dorothy makes her way back thanks to a shipwreck while crossing to Australia with her Uncle Henry. Kansas. I just put that together. 100 Cupboards is referencing books I'm reading without me realizing it. Well done, N.D. Wilson. But Ozma of Oz is interesting. It definitely has that whole, what are the stakes? Are they serious or not? That I talked about with modern fantasy writers. So I guess that's been the thing with children's books since they've started making children's books. Are we supposed to take this seriously? Or are we supposed to take it as just a laugh? In the end, the stakes are serious. There's an underground kingdom led by the Gnome King, spelled N-O-M-E, like Alaska, not G-N-O-M-E, like the guys with the funny hats. If you like Oz and want to go deeper into the lore without having to go through Wicked, or that weird Return to Oz movie that we all forgot about, this is where you'll find out what the Wheelers came from. You'll find TikTok before TikTok was TikTok. It's an interesting book. I read this one to my daughter. We're reading through the Oz books slowly together, and we're enjoying it. The next book on my list is another book I'm reading to my daughter. Amulet, Escape from Lucien by Kazu Kibuishi. I forget which number it is in the Amulet series. I'm enjoying the books, but as it goes on, I'm starting to feel more like I did reading Order of the Stick, which, if you know about that webcomic, it just kept sprawling and adding more and more plot threads without resolving any. And I honestly don't know if they finished it, because I ended up stopping before the thing was done because I lost interest. we're going to finish Amulet. I'm reading it to my daughter. She's enjoying it. The drawings are cool. I'm liking where things are going. It's not a perfect story. I'd still put Amulet above Ozma of Oz and Lonesome Dove, but that's comparing apples to staplers right there. Anyways, the next book I read in March was a book titled Above the Circle of the Earth by a gentleman named E. Stephen Burnett, a Christian science fiction writer postulating a future where people of all religions have to live on preserves thanks to essentially the UN and the men and women who dare to be missionaries in space. Now, that's a cool premise. I found the book kind of lost its steam, at least in my opinion, as it focused more on the acquisition of the spaceship and internal church body politics. That's valid to write about, I suppose, but it wasn't quite what I expected the book to be about. I also had a hard time really following some of the nomenclature. I know Mr. Burnett's writing more books in the series. I hope they do well. I'll probably pick them up too. But this one just didn't quite land full throttle on the launch pad for me. But hey, it's about space. Space is cool. We've been around the moon for the first time in 50 years. So, gung ho, let's go. The next book I read was actually a biblical commentary on the book of Ecclesiastes called Joy at the End of the Tether by Pastor Doug Wilson. It was just a verse by verse go through the book of Ecclesiastes, showing what is often thought of as one of the more depressing, if not the most depressing books of the Bible, has a lot of joy and hope and gladness built into it. You just need to know where to look. Even when things are sad, this too shall pass. And if you have an eternal perspective and you trust God, then you know that in the end, it doesn't matter what happens in this life. The final book in the month of March is one I'd hesitate to even categorize as a book. It was a collection of essays called The Forgotten Heavens. Now, this was compiled by Pastor Doug Wilson and included an essay by him. It's from the 1980s. It covers a lot of the same ground that Michael Heiser, Joel Muddamalle, and Douglas Van Dorn cover with their more recent theology. There's a lot of supernatural in the Bible that gets pushed away by us being Platonist in our thoughts. And there's a lot of Christians who say that they believe the Bible and they believe it's a supernatural book, and yet they foreshorten what supernatural things can happen in it. There's a lot of Platonist materialism smuggled into our worldview without us knowing, just due to the nature of how we were raised in our educational system, without necessarily being sinful, without necessarily being agnostic or atheistic. There are ways that people view the world of faith, even from within, that is blunted to the reality of the spiritual realm around us. This is explored in The Forgotten Heavens. If you're interested in out there seeming theology, but you don't want to go all the way out there and feel like you're listening to one of those podcasts or the Art Bell show, pick up a copy of The Forgotten Heavens. That's all I got through in the month of March. Hopefully, I'll have April's books read list compiled a lot sooner than this month. Until then, I'll see you guys later and keep on reading. Take care.